All right. Good morning. Glad to have all of you there for our second virtual press conference. I hope this finds you doing well. And I know last time there were some concerns that we may not have gotten every one of your questions out there. We're going to be here. I know it's a little bit more difficult to ask questions. If you want to ask a follow-up question, I'm looking at Casey. Please ask Casey. She will get it for you. She's signaling yes. So again, if you would get your questions, we're going to try to get through this and make sure we're going to be here until I answer all of your questions. So I'm happy to be here. But let me go ahead and tell you some of the things that are happening right now for coronavirus. Obviously, that's the largest thing that we've got going on right now. According to Florida Department of Health in Escambia County, there are now 224 cases of COVID-19 in Escambia County. We encourage everyone to continue to follow the CDC guidelines and take preventative actions, even when you feel perfectly healthy. We also had a chance to talk with, at least I communicated this morning with the hospitals. They all seem to be on green at this particular time still, so that's a good thing. There still seems to be considerable capacity in all three of our hospitals as we move forward, even after the events last week with the nursing home. So at least at that particular time, the work that we're doing is keeping the problems from getting to the point where we were worried about. But we got to stay vigilant, and I think these next 2 weeks will probably be the most critical for us. Park update. As of last week, we had closed Roger Scott Tennis Center and all tennis courts, along with public restrooms in city parks. That was also done at the suggestion of the USTA had come in and said that that's what needed to be done. So again, we have closed those tennis courts, and we certainly ask that you continue to work with us at this particular time. And when we can get those back open, we'll reopen them. But at this time, we would ask that you not be playing tennis. Also, there's a reminder that our city parks, our green space remain open, but for you to certainly go and enjoy it, and that's what we have it there for. But playgrounds are closed and shared equipment is closed. And we ask that whatever you do, you honor and obey the accordance with what we have about social distancing, spacing more than 6 feet, and staying out of crowds less than 10. Again, I will say, I know many of you continue to contact me about some things at the Bluffs, and every time we've gone down to check what's going on at the bottom, people are very well spaced. At the bottom of where we are, so at the bottom of the bluffs there along the water. So again, those things continue to be operated within the same thing as our other parks. So I certainly live by Dunwoody Park here. I've seen a number of people in it, walking it, strollers, but no one on the equipment, which is exactly the things we want. We want it as a green space where you can come and enjoy and get some time outside, but do it in a way that is responsible, that would not spread the virus. Again, sanitation update, and just a reminder that due to the significance of increased yard waste, again, we're up almost 300, we're up 200% over where we normally are collecting. So again, our yard waste is, please place it on the side, and we're running a little bit behind. Our garbage and recycling are being picked up on schedule. I know mine were picked up last Thursday, so that is all working on schedule. We ask for everyone's patience as we work through this increase. Our sanitation crews are working hard, and we'll get you picked up as quickly as possible. The Mayor's Neighborhood Cleanup is, the next one will be Saturday, April 25th in North Hill, allowing city sanitation customers in the cleanup area to leave eligible items at the curb and pick up for free of charge. More information and a map of the cleanup area is available at our website, cityofpensacola.com. We ask that you please look at that. I know many of you out there have been doing a lot of cleaning and are looking for these. Unfortunately, the amount of time that they take, and certainly the one we did last time in March, and I'm sure this one, with the amount of stuff that people are putting out after cleaning out their houses and everything else, it's just we're unable to offer any more. But we are going to get through the whole city, so your month will be coming up. We ask you to please hold on to all that stuff, and when we get to your month, we ask you to bring it on out. Last week we had the chance to recognize a city employee in sanitation who did a great thing by helping save a lady's life. But I want to take this moment to recognize another City of Pensacola Sanitation Service employee for going above and beyond. A resident shared the following post about Robin Darnell, who helped an elderly citizen, and it was only his second day on the job. The quote is, "I want to recognize city sanitation employee. I placed my elderly physically handicapped neighbor's trash can at the street. The driver was kind enough and observant enough to get out of the truck and roll the trash can back to my neighbor's holding space. It's a very small gesture she was not doing for recognition. Nonetheless, it made me feel a sense of pride for our city employees. This small act of kindness shall not be overlooked and certainly recognized." But I just want to say I've seen more things and more comments about our sanitation workers. They are working particularly hard to get everything taken care of, and that just exemplifies the attitude of why we are focusing so much on employee engagement. What we've been able to do, what the employees here at the city are doing is they're doing a phenomenal job, and they will keep doing that. And I just wanted the opportunity to recognize a couple of them out there that are doing great jobs for us. Right now, your city is very focused on the CARES Act funding as a part of the Corona Aid Relief and Economic Securities Act passed by Congress and signed into law on March 27th. The city of Pensacola will receive over $450,000 in community development block grant funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. These funds will be used to address a wide variety of public health and public service activities to prevent and prepare and respond to COVID-19. CDBG funds must be utilized for activities that target low to moderate income housing. We're awaiting further guidance from HUD regarding the availability date of funding and detailed guidance from HUD as to the activities that will be eligible. Community input will be solicited on how the funds can be utilized to help COVID-19 response in Escambia County and the city of Pensacola. Also want to tell you another group that's hard at work is our public works area in engineering. The street resurfacing project, the city annual street resurfacing project begins this week, starting in the Sanders Beach area. The citywide projects encompass approximately 130 blocks over a 6-month period, so we are just beginning to kick that off. And also, while you're home and cleaning up, there's one other thing that we certainly need your help in doing. 2020 census. Just a reminder that probably only about somewhere between 45 and 50% of our citizens have filled out their census. Just a reminder, while you're at home, this is a great time to complete your 2020 census. We are encouraging all citizens to complete their 2020 census to ensure everyone in our community is accurately counted. For the first time, you can choose to complete the census online, by phone, or by mail. You can complete the census today at my2020census.gov. My2020census.gov. The 2020 census questionnaire will take about 10 minutes to complete. I've done mine, and I just did my mother-in-law's as well. So again, it doesn't take much time to get it done. We ask that you please try to do it. It's very vital for us. Certainly representation is based off that, but not only representation. There are a number of things that come off the census. Funding that we get for our community is dependent upon you filling that out. So our ability to either track down federal or state monies is going to be very dependent upon you filling out that form. I highly encourage all of you to do it, and we certainly need all of your help to make that happen. We've got about 50% of the responses in. You're there at home. Please take the opportunity to do that, and you can do it by phone, mail, or online. So there are any number of versions that you can do, and we hope you will take advantage of it. Before I open it up to questions, I just want to say there are a couple things, obviously, as we are continuing to work through COVID, and where we are and trying to deal with this containment. Much of the strategy that we are doing and the objective we are trying to do is to give time, to give our hospitals time and do that, because there's a brand new virus, and much of what we're learning, we're either behind on supplies, we're behind on how we fight this and what we do. Just to let you know, that is the purpose of why we got into it. The objective was to push that back. And I know there's several people out there talking about the challenges and that we've lost liberties or something else related to this because of what's happened. I want to take you back to 2014 and January of 2014, right here in Escambia County. We had a significant ice storm. I remember sitting there and being there with Commissioner May. It was his second year. He had just become in November, he had just become the chair. At that time, we were looking at the potential of there to be ice in the city of Pensacola, and it was looking fairly likely that it was going to happen. Now, much like coronavirus, Pensacola does not have, and Escambia County does not have a whole bunch of supplies to deal with ice. It happens maybe once every 20, 25 years. So there were a number of things there. And I remember looking at Lumen, and he was scared to make the call at the time, concerned that if you make the call and cancel everything, that people might get upset that their civil liberties were taken and for no reason, and nothing ended up happening. But I reminded him that we had zero supplies, that all we had was sand. We had no salt, we had no nothing. And that if we were to do that, we would put ourselves at tremendous risk to our community. For that reason, we ended up making the call. I think if you ask Commissioner May, he would tell you that's probably the best advice I've ever given him, was to go ahead and make that call for us to do that. If you remember, we ended up having a significant icing. It shut things down in Pensacola, much more shut down than what coronavirus did. However, I guess it was only 2 to 3 days as opposed to we're now fully a month in. But again, we were shut down significantly. I remember walking to George Tort's funeral. It was about a mile away at Sacred Heart, and I remember walking because you couldn't drive. There was so much ice on the road, you couldn't drive. But this is a case of the same thing. We were unprepared. We didn't have anything ready to go, and we were asking ourselves for time. The issue that we've been trying to do is time. I do think that, the next 2 weeks are going to be critical. And if we can maintain the same kind of things that we're seeing right now at our hospitals and maintaining significant capacity and dealing with those who have the virus and being able for them to get proper treatment and get back to recovery, I think in 2 weeks, we will certainly be looking at how we begin to open some things back up. I don't see things opening up all at once, but I do think your governmental units, local, state, and federal, will begin to look at how they can move with some things, because we certainly understand keeping this position for a long term, significantly over 6 weeks, is going to be very difficult. I know it's been challenging to many of you economically, and hopefully the CARES Pact is getting money out to the individuals. And again, we continue to advocate on behalf of our citizens. But the idea right now is we're trying to get through and trying to take a sacrifice, all of us, to be able to get us through what we need to do right now with COVID. If I look at that, if you look throughout history, we've done this before. We've certainly done this with pandemics in Pensacola in the past, but I think it's easier if we can think about it in some different ways. And for Jeremy, I did some historical reading, better stuff this weekend, and I looked at a couple of instances where you have these things happen, and you look at great sacrifices taken to provide time. We certainly think of the Alamo. I was in San Antonio in November. Or you could think about the Greeks and the stands the Spartans made at Thermopylae. Both of those were to provide time. Both of them ended up they ended up getting slaughtered and they got taken over, but they gave the sacrifice of time. In much the same way that's doing, the sacrifice that all of us are making at this particular time is providing us time to understand what this virus is. There will come a time when we are ready to move forward with recovery. And we probably won't fully have a vaccine or a variety of things happening with us on COVID, but we'll have to move forward with recovery in that point. But at this point, the sacrifice we're making is dealing with time, giving us enough time so that we can figure out what to do with the virus, how to treat it, how to build up our supplies better so that we don't overrun what we've gotten. And for the most part, what you have done in Escambia County, City of Pensacola, and Northwest Florida is exactly that. You have provided time for your hospitals, your governments to do a better job at understanding how to do this. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate the sacrifices you're making and that we are going to get through this. So I ask that we continue to look at this for the next 2 weeks. And then after that, at some point in a slow situation, I think we can begin to lift some of these things. Now, some of the questions are already out there. What happens, and looking at a couple things. I'm very aware of what happened in Addicts Court, and I think what you look at what happened yesterday, we had a gathering of probably hundreds of people. Once the city found out about it, I really appreciate the Pensacola Police Department being there, getting the crowd dispersed. I want to pass along a special thank you to Lawrence Powell, I think, who was notified and got people out there and got people to realize the importance. But it was mostly people that were under 30. Most everyone that I've talked to that was on scene said that most of the people that were there were under 30, looking for something to do. Again, unlikely to see the impact of what this virus means to them and trying to deal with that. And we are asking people to again realize that it's not just about you, it's about others related to you, and it's about a community. And we can't do this without all being together. But clearly there are some things we may have to look at over the next couple of weeks. We made decisions to bring basketball goals down. We had people in groups of 40 and 50, and perhaps having small groups of that amount is better than it ended up leading to a situation with 500. Again, I will be happy to answer any questions about this. All I do know, I've heard a variety of rumors. I've heard even things that there was an individual who is apparently, of all things, using it yesterday as an opportunity to begin his campaign for mayor of the city of Pensacola in 2 years. So I don't know if we're getting into campaigning this early, but again, none of these things were productive to where we want to take the city and what we want to do. We got 2 weeks. We need everybody working together. If we can do that and get through it, we can begin to look at how we begin to come off some of these things in the event that how we treat and how we work through it. But again, these 2 weeks, if we could just work again for a little bit longer, I think we'll see and get to a point where we can begin to do some things. But again, we're getting better. We're getting better at building our supplies. We're getting better at understanding. But it's not going to be a perfect situation. When we come out of this, we're going to have to look at it, how we do it, and how we move forward. So that's a little bit about what's going on. I'm now happy to answer any questions that you may have. Again, I thank you for your willingness to work through this. Casey is there. If you feel like you didn't get a chance to answer your question again, please type something else into her. I'll stay here as long as I need to make sure I answer all of your questions. Casey?
Yeah, the first question is from Andrew McKay. You already touched on this, but he said, can you comment on the block party at Addicts Court? What might be done to raise awareness of the current rules?
I think we continue to raise awareness. I think the problem is getting people to understand the impact of what that is. I think we just got to continue to work through that and get them to understand what it is, but it's a community and it's about understanding. And I am well aware of some of the challenges that have happened over there in the Addicts Court neighborhood in understanding that there are challenges that those neighborhoods were seeing before we even got into COVID. And how do we address some of those things? And I think we've been trying to do that. The city's going to continue to work on those things. But at this particular time, when people, we're looking very much at a voluntary group that we're working with. It's unfortunate if there are individuals who initiated this, which we're just beginning to hear from, and I've heard from some people in the African community that are fairly reputable, telling me there are some individuals that sort of created this. That I think is something we'll have to look at and how we address and what happens and figure out the discussion. So again, you out there in the press, it might be a good story to go see and go talk to some of those people and figure out were there individuals who created this and called this and got this gathering to start to happen. I mean, those were things we're still trying to get a hand on, but there's certainly a story as to how it happened. From our standpoint, I'm very proud of the police who put out there took on risk to themselves to get out and disperse the crowd, and they did that. But that's who we are in the city of Pensacola. We're going to continue to address dangers, no matter what the risk is to us individually. And like I said before, I know Lawrence Powell was out there personally trying to disperse as well. So, again, and I guess I didn't get a chance to address it. I certainly would have been there, but I'm still over here at sort of quarantined at my residence. My son is doing much better. He's had about a week of symptom free. So at this particular time, I think we'll be talking to the nurse today. And I think with CDC guidelines, I can come back after, if he's symptom free, who we're living with, and we got a chance to come back in 3 days, which would also be the 14 days I've been quarantined. We hope to be back. I hope to be back at the City Hall by Friday. So again, from my standpoint, I would have been there as well. But again, I'm quarantined at this point, and I'm looking forward to getting out of here and helping be a little bit more active and out in the community where I can address some of these things. So, I did at least want to, indicate that, I certainly wish I'd been there, but again, I will look to, we will be there for next weekend. If we have anything, gatherings begin to gather, we'll try to address those and disperse those as fast as we can.
All right. The next question is from Jeremy. It's a few questions. Are you aware of which senior facility has the COVID-19 cases? Is it in the city limits? Can you identify the facility for the public? And do you agree with the county's decision to withhold this information?
Well, let's start in the other. Let's go in the reverse way. And certainly, as we've talked about before, the way the command structure sets up for emergencies, it's a state decision that goes to the counties, and the cities operate under that. I don't think this is the right decision at all for us to be doing and not publicizing. And I realize there is a challenge in that everybody in that nursing home is not going to have it, and it has the potential to create more panic. But I explained it like this: when you just simply say it's a nursing home in the Pensacola area, what you said was much more concerning. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 different zip codes within the city limits. Within that, all those individuals are concerned. If we could have just allowed to notify, by zip code, I think it would have been much less of a problem. It's my understanding that this nursing home is in the city. And again, at this point, I'm not able to do anything because of the position of command, but I don't disagree that I think that's not the best thing for us to do for our citizens. It's not trying to create a panic at that institution, but it is trying to at least assure other individuals who have loved ones at either an ALF or a nursing home to not to understand that they don't have a challenge there. It's certainly everybody's on edge, and it would have been, I think, better for us to identify where this was occurring. But at this particular time, that's what we have. I do know, apparently, I think if you looked at some of the zip codes, you're going to be able to figure out where over the last couple of days where this happened, and that will certainly tell it where this is located within a zip code. I think it's the wrong decision for us to do, and I would hope we would think that one. But sitting on the camera in front of me right now is Chief Craner. She's a part of that command, and I will honor that position that I was asked to look at as to how we operate within that command. And so at this particular time, that's about all I can say about it. But again, I think it would have been better for us to be transparent through all these things, and I think that would have been a better situation for us to do. I do know this. I have talked to all the hospitals today. They, on what I get from them, they feel like they have still, even dealing with the issue coming from the nursing home, they're in a green level, which means they're probably 10 to 10%, 15% occupancy. So from that standpoint, there's a lot of capacity left open. And that's even after this had happened at that nursing home facility. And I want to be real clear about something. I think it's unfortunate what's happening. I understand what the nursing home is. You cannot tell that these you don't know all the time if your individual workers have something or not, because it can be asymptomatic in an individual. An individual goes to work, doesn't realize they have it, has no real symptoms, and then it becomes much more of a concern once it gets in the nursing home. So, I think some of what these nursing homes are being asked to do is unrealistic, but that doesn't at the same time mean we don't have a responsibility to at least communicate what that position is. So that's where we are. I would tend to tell you to go look at your zip code map over the next couple of days, and it will, over the last couple of days, and it will show you where the growth was in some a specific zip code.
Next question is from Laura Hussey. Some viewers have expressed concern about tattoo parlors being open. Are they allowed to be open at this time in the city?
And again, I would defer to where we are with what were considered essential. I don't remember that they were necessarily essential in what we had. I mean, you can't do a tattoo from 6 feet away, so I'm not sure. But that was I'm pretty sure that would have been in the order that it was non-essential. As far as where they are within the city, I'll have to follow back up with, I see Chief Craner there, but she'll have to talk to Chief Leiter and see where we are. We will circle back around that, and if we need to make a further declaration, Casey, today, we can do that and better define what was essential versus non-essential. If we need to make a discussion about tattoo parlors, we can certainly do that.
And I actually don't see any other questions, so.
All right, well, if that's where we are, I appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. I hope to be at City Hall, but I believe we've still been discussing that we will do this virtually. Casey, I think that's the case. So we will look to do this probably virtually again next week. Everybody have a safe week. Like I said before.
Sorry, we have one more.
We got 2 weeks question. of really what we've got to do, and we'd ask for your effort in this. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jim Little. 1 second. Jim Little is asking, you mentioned the next 2 weeks are critical. What are you hearing from healthcare providers about what they'll face over the next 2 weeks?
I think when we first looked at where we were and the amount of time that we needed, that this was a date that was kind of always communicated to me by them. As far as Easter was kind of where they were thinking their starting point would be of their high water mark. The fact that we've been able to keep them at a fairly low position is good. If we get through that, hopefully we're continuing to learn more in the areas that have had this challenge. One of the things that clearly appears to be more evident as we move forward is density is a huge issue. Where you have density, you're going to have more cases than where you don't. Like I said before, I believe a community like Pensacola has some natural social distance in the sense that we have single-family homes detached. We don't really have a significant mass transit that everybody is dependent upon. For a variety of reasons, I think these help us be a little bit more safer from this pandemic spread. But overall, I think that's where we stand at this particular time. So,
I don't see any more questions.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We'll look forward to it, and hopefully I'll be back at City Hall by the end of the week, and look forward to it. Thank you very much.